I'm a little bit late to the party, but episode 8 of the Amazing Digital Circus is finally here, and I finally got the chance to sit down and take a look at it, and in all honesty, it's probably my favorite episode of the series thus far. It doesn't mean it's devoid of problems, but I still thought it was really good, and I know me just uttering the words problems makes somebody sit up in their chair, they just get ape-like tendencies, just as their fingertips start sweating as they have to defend their show. Sometimes, I don't know, when I talk about the show and people have, like, argumentative opinions, it kind of feels like I'm talking to a Rick and Morty fan where they're like, I think you're just not intellectual enough to understand and get this. You have to be smart like me. But, you know, I do have a couple of gripes with it, and maybe it's because I started watching the series this year, and I wasn't spending 2 years of my life coming up with theories and thinking about the characters and understanding them. But I don't know, some of it does feel a little bit rushed, some of it feels a little bit convenient, but other than that, this is a really phenomenal show, and I really enjoyed it, and I honestly wish that, I know it's an indie development team, and they have to take a really long time in between every episode, but if they had more money, if they had a bigger team, if they had more opportunities, God, I wish they could make more episodes to flesh this out because it is really good. That is undeniable. I absolutely loved the beginning scene where Kinger gets to meet his wife and we get to see all of the other characters as they slowly all begin to abstract, and I just think that entire concept is so unbelievably sad. Can you imagine being in this world where you forget your own name and are given a fake one, and you meet somebody who sounds familiar only to eventually just click in your mind that that is your wife and you can't even remember her name, just to watch her abstract in front of you?
No matter what happens, I'll always...
And into the cellar you go!
And abstraction is a very odd process, especially within this world, because you don't know what happens to people after they abstract. You know, they become this giant amalgamation monster that can't have any, like, regular thoughts. But what about in the real world? What about outside of this company? What about outside of this AI program? Are their brains scrambled? Are their brains fried? Does it do irreparable damage to everything that they are? Are they just dead? It is such an interesting concept, and I genuinely felt so bad for Kinger in the beginning of this episode. And then we see Kinger walking alone in the circus for what must have felt like a very long time, slowly going insane, slowly losing his mind. And in all honesty, if I had the choice between being insane in this world or becoming an abstraction, I would probably choose abstraction, especially if I just watched my wife turn into one of those big sexy piles of mess. Then I would just be like, I want to be with her, and just strip down and, you know, just lose my mind a little bit. I don't know. I just think Kinger is a very strong-willed person to just, you know, you have to subconsciously not choose to abstract in a way, right? Like, you have to try to avoid it. In a way, you have to give in, kind of like what Jax was doing. Yes, he was panicking a lot of the time, but in a way, he was also giving into it because he just didn't care anymore. So, to see Kinger still there after losing everybody he began to know and his wife to abstraction, it's all very interesting. Unless he knows a deeper process of abstraction and he knows how it works, I'm surprised they didn't ask him about that when he was saying what happens to the people who have abstracted, what happens to the people outside of the program, unless, again, he has a limit to his knowledge, which, why would he have a limit to his knowledge? Why can he remember that he's able to conjure things, but he can't remember his goddamn name? It's all so unbelievably interesting. We then get a pretty nice group therapy session with everybody coming to terms that they might just have to live here and come to terms with it and try to avoid going insane. Caine shows up, and then we get to the Caine problem. And I completely understand that Glitch is a indie studio. They don't have hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars to pump into this to make it go on for super long, or maybe they want to focus on other bigger projects. But I just wish we had more episodes to flush out Caine's character arc. I feel like it was so rushed. And again, the people who have been watching this since it came out in 2023, you might not feel that because you've been sitting there, you've been theorizing, you've been watching it all happen, perhaps you've been rewatching it, perhaps you can point out every single frame where you see Caine slowly start to begin to snap, like when he screams at Zubul, when he has that therapy session with Zubul, when he gets very angry. You could slowly begin to see him snap and slowly begin his villain arc in a way. I wouldn't necessarily call him a full villain because it's just what he is and what he wants, but his entire god complex feels so unbelievably rushed to me because it just happens out of nowhere. And I understand that the entire series has been building to this, with the characters slowly, like, disagreeing with him a lot more, slowly not wanting to do what he wants to do. I just feel like I wish we got to see more of his anger before episode 8, more of him losing it a little bit, more of his thoughts. I just think it would be so much better if we got to see that. I really do thoroughly enjoy the scene in his office, though. Like, there's nothing I hate about Caine becoming this way. I just wish we had one more episode to, like, slowly see it happen instead of it just happening. Because this entire scene where he's in his office and Bubble, that dirty skank, just slowly whispering into his ear that he is a bad person, that they don't want to do what he wants to do, they'd rather abstract than listen to him, and just watching him just start glitching everywhere, saying that he's God, just went so unbelievably hard. That made him look so fucking cool and so threatening.
I'm the original! I am God!
But then why is Bubble also doing that? Is Bubble another AI that somehow relates to Scratch? Is Bubble the Scratch tumor? Was that Abel? I don't know. I'm not a theorizer. I'm not even into theories, really. I'm not into the digital circus theories. I don't really give a shit, but I do have a lot of questions, because why would Bubble be saying those things unless Bubble is attached to Caine's mind and attaches to his crumbling psyche? I don't know. If we see Bubble in the next episode, then I guess we'll know that Bubble somehow relates to Scratch, the other AI. I just thought this entire scene was really interesting. And so now, everybody is disagreeing with what Caine wants to do, and Caine just delivers a beautiful musical number, just basically about how he's an omnipotent god who said you were in charge, and I absolutely adored the song. All the visuals were wonderful. It's just really great to see Caine finally going into that villain role.
And public relations are getting a cleanse. Put on your Sunday best, because I'm nowhere close to quitting.
And again, I just wish we had more time with it, because I bet he's gonna come back in some kind of way in episode 9, but I would have loved to see more of this version of Caine, this horrifying god. It's just such a cool fucking concept in this world, but it's just taken away from me so unbelievably soon. So he starts forcing them all to go on adventures. He starts abusing them whenever he wants, like throwing them into shredders, throwing knives at them, and they eventually all go to hide out at the coffee shop. And why did Pomni just now do this? In episode 7, I swear they literally had an entire thing where they were going to be like, alright, well, when we get back, let's sit Kinger in the dark, have a conversation with him, and make sure we figure all of this out. And that took a very long time for Pomni to realize to put a bucket on Kinger's head. Eventually, Kinger does come to and starts talking, and they come up with a plan that is going to be to get a computer so that Kinger can conjure and change Caine's code to make everything okay again. And it's just so interesting that he's able to do that. He's been able to do that. He's had the knowledge to do that. He's been in the dark. He literally lives in a goddamn pillow fort in the darkness. He never just was like, I could conjure things. Perhaps I could, try to fix my lovely wife down in the cellar. Perhaps I can make things a little bit better. I don't know. It's all interesting. And Jax runs out of the room. He starts panicking. He starts freaking out a little bit because he realizes that all of this is real. And I've started to like Jax's character a lot more. He, again, is just one of those characters where I wish I had more time to see his character arc. I wish we got more episodes even before Pomni showed up, just to understand his character a little bit more. Maybe an episode, where we get to see the other characters he cared about and the reasons he wants to abstract because he truly cared about those people. That could have been cool. Obviously, you get a lot of hints and nods throughout the series, but I just would have liked to see more of Jax's progression. But either way, I'm starting to like it a lot more. So now the name of the game is for Pomni to go and get a computer so that Kinger can use it and he can conjure and he can change Caine's code. Everybody has to distract Caine while they're doing this, and they just start sucking up to him, just looking at those big old chompers, wanting to whiten them, just being like, ooh, those are some sexy chompers, bro. You're looking so good, Caine. Did you polish your eyeballs, bro? Just just making sure that he's a little distracted, Caine eventually figures out what they're doing and utters the words, "Where is Kinger?" And honestly, your heart drops a little bit when you hear that, because I thought he was going to go and kill Kinger, I really did. And then they start mocking him. They start telling Caine that he could never do anything. If a dentist took one look at him, he would say that he needs a little bit of a whitening, that bastard. And so Caine loses it. And this is exactly what I wanted from this series, because ever since I started watching this, Caine, a god with almighty power, what if he was more villainous? And dear lord, they did not waste it, with him grabbing all of the human freaks and throwing them into their worst nightmare, with Pomni getting eaten alive by NPC crocodiles. You have Ragatha at a family dinner with her mom getting knives thrown at her. Gangle sees a bunch of different emotions, and all of these probably tackle like themes and stuff that are much deeper than I care to point out. I'm sure they're all really important stuff that deal with like trauma and whatnot. I can't analyze all these. I especially don't know what the Pomni means. I can make inferences on everybody else, like Jax getting laughed at and taking off his skin. He doesn't like being laughed at and whatnot. Ragatha has issues with her family and her mother and whatnot, but I really don't know what Pomni's could mean. Zubul has trouble with identity. I think that's the main message there. But yeah, all these nightmares were absolutely insane. And it's exactly what I always wanted from Caine. I wanted him to act like this because I thought it would be visually amazing, and it's exactly what I hoped it would be. So Caine is distracted long enough for Kinger to be inputting all of this while everybody is suffering, and then Kinger deletes Caine's code. And there's a lot of weird messages. I did pause it. There's a lot of weird messages that looks like something is talking to Kinger, something that's actually conscious as he's typing all this stuff. I don't know if it's because he was entering all the wrong passwords or something, but either way, I wonder if it's going to deal with something with the Scratch AI thing. Either way, pretty fucking badass to just watch Caine go, wait, and then vanish from existence. And then he's dead, and they could actually curse again, which means he's actually gone.
Wait.
Just such a cool concept and an amazing way to end this episode and give us such a cool cliffhanger. It just genuinely leaves so many questions, and I've heard that episode 9 is supposed to be double in length. I kind of wish that it was going to be triple in length, because they have so many different things that I want to see wrapped up, so many questions that I need to be answered, and so many things that I want to see explored. I just wish we had so many more episodes of this show. And again, my only real gripes with the series is that it does feel a little bit rushed in places, but I could look past that, because I will say the majority of the time, the writing is pretty solid, the characters are executed well, and I absolutely adore the animation and the visuals. I just think it's a really well put together show for what it is. So yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed this episode. If I was to rate it 1 to 10, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. It's definitely my favorite in the series thus far. Now I'm going to be taking a look at some of your thoughts, feelings, and hot takes on episode 8 of the Amazing Digital Circus. Caine deserved to be deleted. Whether you like him as a character or not, he still had to go. And I actually think that's a very interesting moral implication. Does Caine deserve to live? Does he deserve to die? Because is he a human in the sense of having emotions, having past experiences that make him who he is? No, he is a line of code, but he is still capable to have the desire to want to be liked. He is still capable to feel anger, and he still wants a sense of belonging. He just can't relate to the humans, and that causes a mass amount of anger and misunderstanding. So does he deserve to die? Did he deserve to be deleted in this episode? And honestly, you know, after all the shit he did, I would genuinely say yeah, and I don't really think they should necessarily feel bad for it either, because again, he is just a line of code, and that's all he could ever be. What he was all he could ever be. Even if he is self-learning, he can't think and he can't have those past memories to make him a better person, and he would never learn to listen. He would never learn to become a better person. I don't think he would ever evolve past that. So I think Caine did deserve to die, and I always think he was going to be an obstacle within that. I don't think there was necessarily any saving Caine. I wonder if he's going to come back in episode 9 in some way, and if he's going to still be more antagonistic, or if they're going to find a way to save him because they feel bad about it and they do want Caine to somehow live. I don't know. It's all very interesting, but in my world, I think Caine deserved to die. I don't like what they did with Caine. It was cool and fun the first time I watched it, but now since some time has passed since watching the episode, I feel like they speed ran his arc so they could get him out of the way. I just think making him super malicious and having him torture everyone was kind of an unnatural way to show his frustration, and it kind of ruins the appeal of him as an antagonist by just making him the generic evil guy. The song was peak though. And I definitely agree and disagree with some parts of what you're saying. I agree that it does feel like they speed ran his arc a little bit, because in all honesty, if we got one more episode that truly highlighted his deteriorating mental state, I feel like it would have been a lot better, because episode 8 was mainly all focused on Caine deteriorating, that it genuinely shocked me. It kind of felt like shock value to a point. That scene where he's in his office and he loses it and says that he's God kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. I feel like if we got one more episode to explore that, it would have been a lot better. But when you're saying that it kind of ruins the appeal of him as a antagonist for the series, I think it makes it even more interesting, because you have this character who is an AI, which is already a concept that is a little bit fuzzy. You really don't know how he works, what he's capable of learning, what he's capable of doing, and now that he views himself as God because he's just sick of everybody, that makes him such a much more cool villain, because he's finally snapped. I don't think it makes him like a generic evil guy who's just doing it for the sake of being evil. He's doing it because he doesn't understand himself, he doesn't understand his own needs, and the fact that nobody in his life is okay with what he's doing, nobody likes what he's doing, he finally snapped and he lost it, thus making him act more like a god instead of a ringmaster of a circus. I think it was actually executed very well and made his character one of my favorites within the series. I'm so happy to see you getting into the series. A personal theory I have is Kinger won't be able to leave. He'll either help them all leave and stay behind, or if he does, his body is so old, it's been there for so long, it's decayed, and he can't go back. Same with Ragatha and maybe even Jax, depending on how long they've all been there. The only codes we got to see for their arrival was Ragatha and Kinger, so I'm not sure when the other guys got there. And that's pretty interesting. I don't know where you really get to this conclusion, especially because you don't really know where the episode's gonna go. That's very reaching for the stars, you could say the least. But when I was doing reading about this episode, I did see that a lot of people are thinking that somebody's going to have to stay behind to bring back Caine. And in all honesty, I don't want that to happen. That just feels like such a cliche that, oh man, everybody who's in this horrible torture fest, everybody who's stuck in this, simulation and has to be stuck there forever, oh, one person has to stay behind and it has to be this big, super emotional moment where one character has to stay behind and be stuck there forever. Oh god, so that Caine can exist because we all feel bad about killing Caine. I don't know. I just think that'll be boring. I really just kind of want them to all have to escape. I think it would be cool if Caine comes back in a way and they like struggle to all get out of there, but I think it would be a lot better if every single character escaped. That's just my personal opinion. I haven't seen episode 8 yet, but my brother has. He says the character development for Jax came out of nowhere. This might be a hot take, but I found that to be a true for the show in general. It's not that the idea for their characters they had were bad, it's just that they could have been executed better. Maybe a little bit more build-up or foreshadowing, otherwise it comes off as kind of rushed. And this is something that I agree with a lot, and I've complained about Jax a lot in my past videos, but seeing it in episode 8, I definitely think it's just a time thing. I think they had a certain amount of episodes that they wanted to make, and they're working really hard to make them. It's just not going to be as fleshed out as other shows who have a really big budget and like hundreds of people working to make this one show. I think with the amount of episodes we've gotten and the amount of time that they've given to each character, it is still pretty well thought out. Yes, it can feel a little bit rushed, but I ended up liking Jax's character, and I think his progression was done decently well for the amount of time that they spent on it. So yeah, could it have been fleshed out a lot more? Could every other character have been fleshed out a lot more? Yeah, but it doesn't really take away from how good the show is. It's actually kind of more impressive that I ended up caring about these characters as much as I do, with how little they all got fleshed out. I feel bad for Caine because the difference between an AI and humans is that Caine literally doesn't know how to replicate human emotions well, because he doesn't have any himself. The problem is with his identity, he is completely different from the rest. And yeah, that's actually a very good statement about Caine as a whole. I don't think he was coded to completely understand humans, especially because he does seem to be a self-learning AI, and I feel like because he has this moral complex of really wanting to be liked and just not being able to understand human emotion, human experience, and humans not liking what they're going through, he can't deal with that, so he just takes it all back onto himself because he is self-learning and just uses it, and because he is self-learning once again, he ends up having hatred because he tries and tries again and nothing works, so it just leads to him becoming malicious, and I think it's executed very well. I like it. Not a hot take, but I really like how Caine mentally tortured everyone with stuff happening in their normal lives. Jax's was humiliation and hated being laughed at, Ragatha's was the fear of being like her mother, Zubal's was identity, Gangle was her emotions and how she deals with them, Pomni's I'm not too sure. And yeah, that puts what I was saying in my review in much better words, focusing on every single aspect of their torture being a extension of their character. Just again, how does Caine know all of these things if he can't make good adventures for them? He could just pinpoint their deepest and darkest fears in just their perfect form, but he can't make good adventures? It's just all very interesting. But yeah, I think this entire scene with all of their fears was executed so unbelievably well and was visually stunning and perfect for every single character to just highlight a different form of their own struggles. My hot take is when Kinger is in his coherent state, he's hot. Now, do you stare at a chess piece on a chessboard and feel arousal? Do you put googly eyes on it and just start flicking the bean, pounding the tuna? You know? Do you start getting all hot and heavy when you see a fucking chess piece? I don't get it. I guess you're attracted to the personality. I hope you're attracted to the personality more than a chess piece. I guess that wouldn't be the worst thing to ever be attracted to. I mean, there's people who have sex with their cars. But you do you, champ. You do you. That's gonna do it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on how I went about doing this. I think the review first and then hot take second was a fun way of doing this, and it's a great way to include you guys. Let me know if you liked it, if you disliked it, because I'm trying to throw in with my normal reviews of shows from the past, topical reviews of episodes that are coming out today, and I like getting your thoughts on stuff, so just trying to make these videos a little bit more interesting. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you guys in the next one.